So today we're talking about silvopasture and regenerative farming in general. So what we're doing on the property is we have, as you can see, forested. This is how all our property looked at the start. So that's why things take so long. It's because we're cutting through all this, but we're not clear cutting. What we're doing is we're thinning the trees, we're cutting out the evergreens and allowing the bigger, more beautiful trees to survive. And that is what's known as silvopasture. So it's a combination of trees and pasture. And what it provides is it provides shelter, it's a windbreak, it still has the food apparently. It provides things that just a regular pasture wouldn't provide, and of course, it allows for grass to grow, which you can't do in a forest. So it's the best of both worlds. As the sun moves around, it moves around the trees and still allows the grass to grow. But of course, when you just have nothing but a clear cut open field, you have issues that go with that, which is there's no shelter, there's no windbreak, and we want the animals to be able to be out in this pasture. Now, if we were just doing pasture for hay, we might have different goals than that, but that's not the goal. The goal is to incorporate the animals into the land, and that's done best by having a combination of trees and pasture. It's really that simple to say, not that simple to do. Because to have machinery come in here and just clear cut would be quick and easy. What we're doing it with the chainsaw, which we featured a few times, one tree at a time, literally one tree at a time. As you can see here, they've been going one by one until, until we get to that goal. Now, this wouldn't be something we would realistically do with hundreds of acres of land, but when it comes to homesteading, which is what I think a lot of our viewers are more interested in than large-scale farming, this is a practical option, though it is time-consuming. Everything requires a few years and seasons to really come into its own. You've seen videos of the front of our property, which has been cleared, and we've done that. And it's very doable. It just takes time and effort, but there's a balance to everything. And with all this cutting, we have wood for our winters. So it's a cycle and everything all comes together and nothing's wasted. We cut the trees and we use that for our firewood. So it's wonderful. It's all coming together, but it really does come together slowly. But we really believe in silvopasture, and what that adds to an ecosystem is so much better than clear cutting. And like I said, it does provide more benefits than just a forest, because we can't have forested area like that all throughout the property and really have anything that's going to enrich the animals. We do need that combination of pasture and trees. And we see it. We see it every summer. The animals are always under the trees that are left. They're there for shade. They're there for comfort. They like it and we like it. It's win-win. There's no real downsides other than the labor that goes into it. And that's just part of the game, right? That's part of the whole process. So you just need to know that going in. And yeah, it's just wonderful. I don't know if Jessica has anything to add as the person behind the camera, but those are my thoughts on silvopasture. And that's just a small part of regenerative farming in general, but it is one important aspect when it comes to land management in general. Of course, we are clearing it to do rotational grazing, which is, of course, another important part of homesteading. You have to rotate your livestock to avoid things like worms and to allow the land to heal and to regenerate, literally regenerative, right? Except pronouncing that word properly instead of stuttering it like I did, but we know what we were getting at. But it's all part of it. Everything needs to heal, things need to grow, but things need to be in balance. You don't want all of everything. You don't want clear cut. You don't want a forest. You want a healthy balance of it all. And I think that moving forward, there is a real push to that. You are really seeing ecosystems of a different variety that we haven't seen in the past. We've all seen farms and what farms traditionally look like: level fields, tilled, seeded, and then harvested at the end. What we're seeing now is forests with food incorporated into that, like growing your foods, growing your bushes, your fruit trees in forests. Everything mixed together, things not being so segregated. That's the new push. And it's because things are healthier once you strike that balance. But it is a lot more work on the front end to set up. There's no doubt about that. Um, there's nothing easier than having your farm tractors come in and completely tilling hundreds of acres all at once. It's so easy to do. But we're seeing the results of that now in that those farmlands are being stripped from their topsoil, and they can no longer produce, right? They have to have fertilizer brought in from farther and farther every time just to support the life that they're trying to grow. Whereas when you get an ecosystem like this, it naturally fertilizes itself. You have the leaves that fall, that decay, that make natural fertilizer. It's all about a system that can sustain itself, which is important. Now, commercial farming hasn't gotten there yet, and I think it will. I think it'll have to. They're not going to be able to afford to keep their soil healthy. If you just Google it and research it, you're going to see that the nutrients in their soil are basically nothing. So there is a real crisis there, and it's a food crisis. We all know about the food crisis, and this is a way to balance it out. If more people could farm like this, it would require more people doing it, but it's the push, it's the way things are going, and we are excited to actually be part of it, even though we're doing it on a really small scale. But it's great. We can do it on a small scale and show you how it should be done large scale. This can all just be expanded. Everything that we do and we learn and we teach here can be expanded to unlimited potential. It's the exact same process, it's just over a greater area. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we're not, solely focused on profits, which
No,
makes a
of
big
course. Yeah.
difference. And we're also more focused, I find, us personally, to avoid debt.
Yes. Yeah.
So we, that's why sometimes it seems like things are really slow going, and, we would love to have those beautiful lush fields and, it just be picture perfect like Pinterest. But unfortunately that comes with a cost, and it's a cost that, is not sustainable with how we do things. We would have to basically kill things.
Yeah.
In order to make that money back to justify that huge expense. So this way, there's no depress if something goes wrong. There's no stress if something goes wrong, because we're not looking to make a loan payment to pay off something that we've done.
Right.
And Silvopasture is just amazing because technically, when you look at this woods, there's like nothing here. But technically, this here, you would not need a shelter, like a physical barn or shed or anything for cows. This would be shelter. This is an acceptable shelter, actually, for cows.
Right.
So that's how much benefit there is to trees that can help you forego having a structure, which is kind of a big deal. Now, that's not what we're moving for, but the benefits, like Dean said, with, it fertilizing itself, it's keeping the ground. Our rotational pasture also will be by days. So there's actually a math formula to figure out what your animals need, the space that you have, and to figure out basically what your rotation schedule should look like, what nutrition that these animals kind of need, to figure out like your hay usage, your land usage, for an overall better, more efficient use of land. We right now do not use our land efficiently.
Right.
Because they have such a large area that they're able to kind of be really picky and pick the juicy, tasty snacks and leave the things that might not be as appetizing as that particular thing they're hunting. Now, when that happens and you have a large field, what happens there is weeds are able to take over, or, things that they're just not going to eat. So when you look at fields that have animals and parts look really, really down to the ground, and then you'll see these big tufts, that's basically what's happened. And so when you minimize that space, it really focuses them on the forage that's available and increases your efficiency with your land use. Because it's all food, it's just some is better food. Like chips are a lot better than eating rice. And that's kind of the same thing for them. So it really improves your forage. It increases, the yield on an animal if you're using it for meat or health, all of those things. And we're looking to move to do everything as healthy as possible for the land and the animals. And also it's going to look beautiful because trees in a field and grass. It's just beautiful. So last year, I'll continue on with what Dean said, we worked really hard on a project and it's been resting almost this entire year, but this is how all of our property starts. So take a good look, folks. You know, if you look at our stuff and you're like, oh, that doesn't even look worth to be proud of, this is what it was. So every field that you see, this is what it was. This is one of the two who did it. And this is how.
This workhorse.
Yeah, one battery charge, one chainsaw, one tree at a time, working together. And this, if I can zoom in here, is what we worked towards. So
Right.
we actually picked if the trees we were keeping. We got, you know, still some work to do in there, but we took out most of the evergreens.
We can probably walk a little closer to it.
Okay, we took out most of the evergreens. We left some,
We're getting it.
and
This is such a great example of silvopasture. This is exactly what we were talking about. You're sinking.
I'm sinking.
We have a lot of brush here.
Okay.
But what an excellent example of leaving the trees that we wanted. So we left the taller, more beautiful trees. But you can see the sun can hit the entire ground. You can see the grass already forming. That wasn't there before. This is all new. Now, as you can see, if you see farther back, you get back into shade because it's cleared less. But this, though it's a small area, is exactly what we're going for. It's you know, the best of the best trees, and then pasture. And there's going to be clusters too, but this is it. And we're proud, and it looks great. Yeah, there's a lot more to do, but we're enjoying doing it, and you really have to enjoy it because it's a lot. But there's a lot more to it than this because we cut it. We have all this wood for our fires. We have our summer fires, our burnings. You know, when you're sitting around a fire pit, it all provides that wood. Like everything provides for something else. Like the pasture provides for the animals fertilize the pasture.
Yep.
The trees we cut down provide our heat in the winter and our entertainment in the summer when we have fires going in our fire pit. So it's all comes together, and it really does, and it's really cool to think about, right? It's really
Exactly.
getting back to nature in that way, you know.
Yeah, and you know, there are some days where I was like, oh my gosh, we should just hire and have someone pay us stumpage, which is basically someone will come in and pay you to clear your land. Now, this land was cleared before, and we saw actually what that does, you know, because we have very soft ground, so we have a lot of ruts and everything. You know, imagine how fast that would be. It'd be so fast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't go, I want this tree behind Dean to stay.
Yeah.
But I want this tree directly in front of him to go. You can't do that.
Right.
You know, even where we're thinking about mulching, getting a mulcher or a contractor to come in and mulch for us, that is something I've actually been thinking of is, you know, how to not be super annoying and be like, this tree stays, this cluster can go, because that also, you know, translates to money. The more that they have to move around your things, the more costly it is because you pay by the hour and everything. So, but this is like a pride and joy. And I love this field actually much better than our no tree except for on the outside, which is over there. Sometimes you see that. You know, it's got no trees in the middle. It's only got these trees on the edge.
Yep.
Here, that are actually in this field, not that field, but it overshades to create some shade there. This field is actually more exciting. For me and for Dean. And you know, this year it kind of rested to see what the ground was going to be like with like water and dry and everything. So now we kind of have an idea. The goats and everything will end up coming in here in the spring and pooping everywhere in winter, and then we'll seed it. We'll till it and seed it more, because we seeded it a little bit, but we'll do more. And that's actually why our backyard is such a luscious, beautiful green, is because the goats and sheep come up and poop everywhere. And and, you know, and
Natural
we're using that
fertilizer.
as a pasture actually too, because it's food.
Yeah.
But this project took the summer, and we work, as some of the videos have showed, in heat waves. It doesn't matter. because we want to get this stuff done. We burned all of the limbs. We do have a pile right
Yep.
there of sticks that are long that we'll use for probably burning our posts or rails. But yeah, and
Yep.
we used a pallet fence. The pigs over there, you know, but this pallet fence is going to go and it's going to be part of a larger field. But
Yeah.
it was exhausting, but you're very proud of it, aren't you?
Exactly. And, you know, speaking of good weather and heat waves, we are currently in fall. It's our favorite work season, so we should get back to it. So thanks for joining. And we are going to show you, this is the before. Let's all remember the before, and we will show you the after, but it'll probably be in a year's time. But it is going to be as beautiful as that field, we assure you. Bye. It's already so nice here. I mean, just look ahead, like it's so open. But let's open it up more.